Good morning. Welcome back. Red Zone Sports here. On to week 6 for college football. Man, the season flies by. I know we say that every year, but holy smokes. Bad news, season's moving quick. Good news, better games are coming down the pipeline. We saw obviously one of the best in a very long time last week with Alabama and Georgia, and can't wait to see what college football brings us this week. So before we jump into some of the DraftKings, my favorite plays, my favorite picks, and the slate overview, please hit that thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We'll have, in addition to this, more betting content, NFL content, showdown content, everything that you need this week. Feel free to fire in any questions or hit me up on the socials if you think I missed anybody. All right, let's rock and roll here. We have right out of the gates, Missouri going to Texas A&M, a top 25 matchup here in the SEC. Missouri finally, we think gets tested. Brady Cook, 7,500, I think is a pretty good price tag here. He hasn't done a whole lot this year, but Missouri also hasn't really been pushed too much, except for a few weeks ago, kind of that surprise by Vandy. I think Brady Cook's a pretty sneaky play here, to be honest with you. I know Texas A&M has a pretty good defense, but they're not, unbeatable or anything like that. At 7,500, sub 5% ownership, I think he's definitely in consideration here, as is Nate Noel. 6K, he's projected pretty well here. He's been right around that 20-point mark on DraftKings every week. I think he's in a good spot. And then Luther Burden, obviously, every week is playable. The only challenge with him is his price tag, but with Brady Cook being discounted a little bit, I like it here on the road in Aggie land. Moving to the A&M side, we have to wait and see what's going to happen here at the quarterback position. We don't know if it's going to be Reed or Wegman or both. So I'm a little bit hesitant to go here, to be honest with you. Like if we had definitive yes, it's one or the other, I would have some interest, I think, especially Reed with his legs. But I just can't do it, or at least like it might be a Saturday morning type build. But I think this one's going to come down to the wire, and it makes it really tough to kind of project what we're going to see here. Le'Veon Moss, though, 5,500. I know he's not going to probably break the slate here against Missouri, but 15, 20 points at 5,500 might be someone you need on the slate. So I have some interest there. Not really anybody in the passing game. I guess Noah Thomas, 3,800 is a really good play based on price point, but outside of that, that's kind of a mixed bag here. I don't really love it if you're trying to take down a GPP. So that's kind of my overview of game one. Then we go Boston College of Virginia. We got Castellanos probably returning for BC, which is really good news for them. If he's in, I do have a little bit of interest, although he's expensive, 8,400, I think. So he is playable because of his legs and everything else, but similar to any other injury, I want to make sure he's good to go and really ready to fire on all cylinders in this one before I play him. Trayshawn Ward is someone I've already put into a few lineups. I like him quite a bit. He's seen probably, the majority of snaps and usage in this backfield. He's also the one in the passing game that really gets use. If we think Virginia takes a lead here, game script probably favors Ward. So I like him here. Price tag's good. Lewis Bond is probably the other one, but I need to know that Castellanos is good to go before I play any of these receivers. So Bond is the one that you want, though, in my opinion. He is going to be fairly highly owned, 4,500 to get the alpha in that receiver room, but I don't think it's necessarily bad chalk here. On the Virginia side, Calendra has been really solid all year. He's priced like it, which makes it tough, 9,200. I think there's other spots you could look to, but the big challenge is like whoever you're gonna want to pair him with Malachi Fields, who's also priced way up at 8,600. If you think it's a way to get different, which I think it will be, I don't mind stacking these two up as a way to kind of get off chalk if you're going to play some of those other pieces. But Calandria, Fields, good plays, solid plays, but man, they're expensive. So just kind of keep that in mind. I think pace is okay. Not really my cup of tea. I'm probably not going to have too much Virginia in this one. They're, a 1-point favorite. Should be a good game, but I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do with this one, to be honest with you guys. SMU is a 7-point dog on the road to Louisville. 25 team total, 32 team total for Louisville. I definitely have some interest in this one. I think for SMU, the backfield with LJ Johnson returning is going to get more complex and complicated. I don't know if they're going to ride Rashard Smith still. He's been really great. But we've seen SMU in the past, really muddy these waters and make it tough to play anybody. And Rashard Smith is priced up at 7,800. So tough spot there. But if I know he's going to get a lot of the bell cow work, he might be an interesting contrarian kind of pivot there. Not really interested in the receiver room. The Louisville side is the one I have interest in, but I think a lot of people will also. Tyler Shook, 7K, he's in a good spot here, I think. Isaac Brown, the freshman, he is the one who is seemingly taking over the lead backfield duties for Louisville. He's someone I definitely want to get in some lineups, even if it is kind of a split here. It looks like Brown's starting to kind of pull away. And again, that's Isaac Brown, 4,300. I think he's an interesting shot play down there if you need a cheapie. And I think he could definitely get you enough value to make it worth it, even if he does split carries on this one. Ja'Cory Brooks, always a good play, 6,300 here. I think Chris Bell is interesting at 3,600. And Colin Lacey, just a complete mispricing at 3,400. I think he had like 4 or 5 catches in his first game back last week versus Notre Dame. Obviously, an easier matchup here versus SMU. I don't see why you wouldn't play him. I like this Louisville passing game as well as Isaac Brown quite a bit here. Going to the next one, North Carolina and Pittsburgh, both who don't seemingly play a whole lot of defense. So I think you got to consider this one. Criswell for North Carolina is really not someone I have a whole lot of interest in. I don't think he's very good. But Amari and Hampton is very good, 8,700. He's going to be a little bit expensive, but I mean, this is a guy who, very similar situation to what we thought we were getting out of Ollie Gordon. Like we could see easily 30, 40, 50 points out of this one if he gets going and if North Carolina stays in this. So interesting play there. I think on the other side is where, probably more of the ownership is going to come from is my guess. Pittsburgh's been great all year. They're a 3-point favorite here, 34-point team total. You've got Eli Holstein. You've got Desmond Reed finally priced up. And then you've got the mixed bag of Mumpfield, Johnson, Lee, Williams, all those guys on the receiving options. But what I'm trying to say is this is a really good offense. I think you want to play this offense. I think this is an offense you definitely want to get some pieces to if you're not stacking. They throw the ball like 65% of the time, I think it is. But even with that, Desmond Reed's involved. He's getting like 5, 6, 7 catches a game. So, I mean, I think both of these running backs are definitely my favorite plays in this one. And I like Holstein quite a bit, even though he's priced up, because North Carolina's defense is absolute trash. Wake Forest goes to NC State. Speaking of trash, NC State really bad overall. I don't really want too many pieces from this one. Casey Concepcion, I think he's really damn good, but 6,700 quarterback can't get him the ball. I think that's a really challenging spot there. Justin Jolly, I think, is the one I would play if I had to, just because price point 3,500. He sees 4, 5, 6 catches a game. He plays all the downs. I'm almost positive. I think he's the tight end for the team, so he's kind of the safety and security blanket for them. So I don't mind that play at all. The other side is where I will be going, though. I think you got Hammer and Hank Bachmeier, the transfer from Boise State, has been pretty solid this year, especially from a fantasy standpoint. I think you could see 20, 25 points out of him here. Shouldn't be highly owned. I think Desmond Claiborne is in a good spot as well. And Taylor Morin, Donovan Green, all these guys are in play for me. They're all going to be probably sub 10% owned. It's a cheap stack overall. It's a good, 25-point team total. They're dogs, so hopefully, they're trailing. It's a good game script, and I'm not scared of NC State's defense at all. So I think Wake Forest is a really interesting sneaky stack, according to what I'm seeing here ownership-wise and everything else. Purdue goes on the road to Wisconsin. Hudson Card down to 4,700 on the price tag. So if you really need to save some bucks, be my guest. He's not been very good. He's not very good, but Why not? I guess if you want to go there, I will not be. Devin Mockabee, 4K. I mean, all these guys are getting just cheaper like every week. It's actually kind of funny. Mockabee at 4K, I think's doable. He's not going to be great probably for you, most likely. But at 4K, you're going to get a starting running back. Like, you could do worse. And then we've talked about Max Clare before here on the show. 3,700, very similar to Jolly above for NC State. He is kind of just their security blanket. He's like really their only consistent receiving option in the offense. If you need a price saver, 3,700, Clare is probably where I'd look to. On the Wisconsin side, Braden Locke, 5,400. Probably not. Ches Malusi's the guy I want to look to. I don't think Purdue has a good rushing defense whatsoever. Ches Malusi is a very talented back. He sees about 50 to 60% of the rushes in this offense. He is going to mix in with Yakameli and Walker, so it's not perfect. But Malusi, in my opinion, is the best of the bunch at 5,500. I'll probably take some shots on him in this one because there's a chance that he could break, a long one or two, pop a few into the end zone, and at 5,500 really hits value here. Again, home favorite, terrible rush defense he gets to face. And I think Wisconsin can just kind of control this one. So Malusi, I definitely like. Pauling at the receiving position, he let me down last week. I thought they would just pepper him with targets against USC, but they didn't do that. So I'll probably go back to him. I'm a sicko. So Pauling, Malusi for me on the Wisconsin side is where I'm looking to. I'll make this easy. Nobody on UCLA I have interest in. Moving on, Penn State. I think you could go here. 28-point favorite, 37 team total at home. It was reported yesterday that Nick Singleton was not at practice, so keep an eye on that. If Nick Singleton misses, Katron Allen becomes almost a lock play on the slate. His ownership will skyrocket, but it will be like rightfully so. If Singleton's back at practice and he's fine, I think both of these guys are in the mix. I think Drew Aller, not the greatest fantasy quarterback. They play really slow, but they should just absolutely rock UCLA here at home. So I think him, Tyler Warren, Harrison Wallace, if you want to go just to like a Penn State onslaught here and hope that like in 3.5 quarters, they do all the damage and it's over and they hit value, I think you could play that, honestly. Like UCLA is really pathetic and they should get rocked here at home or out on the road. So they have a 9-point team total. Your hope is that like UCLA can kind of put some fight up and like maybe they can get a special teams or defensive touchdown or something like that just to keep it somewhat close. But I think Penn State could absolutely roll them, and I think you could hit value in a few ways here. Georgia and Auburn. Look, we all know Georgia's going to be kind of out for blood here. The problem is Auburn's like not a horrible team. So, I do have probably a little bit more interest in Georgia than I should. I just think Kirby's going to have these guys like, foaming at the mouth at kickoff. They came back and started to find their groove, obviously, in the second half of that Bama game. But, Beck is expensive, which is my only challenge with it. But ETN at 7K is a good price tag. I think Lovett, Arian Smith, Dylan Bell, all these guys are definitely in play if you want to take some shots like on each of them. Stacking it up is always tough with Georgia because they could just do it in a bunch of different ways, especially the way Auburn turns the ball over. Like, wouldn't shock me for Georgia to pump like 2 defensive touchdowns here. And then, your Carson Beck stacks are kind of, toast by the second quarter. So that's my only concern with Georgia. Not that this game's going to be close, but how they get there. On the other side, no real interest. Keandre Lambert-Smith has been playing really good, but he's just at 5,400. He's not like value here. And again, I've tried to be as clear as possible. I think Georgia just absolutely steamrolls Auburn here. Ole Miss goes to South Carolina. They're a 9.5-point road favorite. This should be an interesting one. We'll see if Lenora Sellers is back. If he is, I'm in. 5,800. I think he's a good price tag here for a quarterback that can run and shoot. We also saw Raheem Sanders is questionable for this one. That's a little concerning in this matchup. If you see that Sanders is good to go, I don't know if I'll necessarily play him. I probably will just because 5K is too cheap for him. But I'm probably a little bit more interested in Sellers here. look, we've seen South Carolina rise up a few weeks ago against LSU, which was a big game. Probably should have won that game, or they were very close to winning that game. I have some interest. I think South Carolina is better than a lot of people give them credit for. At the receiver position, Jared Brown's a little, 5,100 is okay, I think, in my opinion. But Mazeo Bennett at 4K is probably a little bit more interesting, just to get, again, price tag. And then Joshua Simon, 3,300. He sees a lot of snaps in this office. He runs a lot of routes. He hasn't quite produced to the same level as those guys, but I think that's an interesting play. On the Ole Miss side, I don't really know what to expect here. I don't know what they did last week. Like, honestly, like what Lane Kiffin was trying to accomplish there. You had guys like Antoine Wells with, 0 catches. Like, I don't get it, but whatever. That's Ole Miss's problem, not mine. You would think in this matchup that they would be able to run the football here. Henry Parrish is questionable, though, so that makes things challenging. If he misses, you can look to Ulysses Bentley. I think he becomes the bell cow, but knowing Lane Kiffin, he'll just throw it, 75 times, and we'll see what happens. So in that case, he's super expensive, but the Jackson Dart, Trey Harris train makes a lot of sense in this one. The only challenge, again, just keep in mind, South Carolina has a very good pass defense because they have one of the best pass rushes in the league or in the country. So when you look at that, like, what does that mean for Ole Miss if they're going to pass it 70, 80% of the time? Like, it should be a really interesting matchup. And I think it's going to be tough for Ole Miss here if they can't get something going on the ground. So kind of like South Carolina at home. It's Cocktober. I kind of like it. So Lenore Sellers and that side of the ball is probably where I'm going. And I'll probably bring it back with Trey Harris, to be honest. Virginia Tech pays a visit to the Farm in Stanford, 8.5-point road favorite. We saw them start to come alive a few weeks ago. They took Miami to the brink, and some say we probably should have won that game. They're going to be, somewhat chalky. Drones at 8,500, Tootin at 76. And then you've got Lane at 5,700, Daquan Felton, Ollie Jennings, all those guys in the mix. I have some interest in Virginia Tech for sure. Not really much on the Stanford side. I think the receivers you could look to. Eric Ayumanor, man, I'm going to mispronounce that. I think I already did. I think is interesting play. I think Sis is an interesting play as well. And then I'm going to do this in real time because I do not have this note in front of me, and I apologize. But Stanford also had a true freshman play his first game last week and absolutely crush it. I don't know what to expect out of this guy this week. And I don't know if it was like a one-time thing for injuries or if they're planning to really get him in the mix here again. But I think if you see Emmett Mosley the fifth, if we get word that he is like, no, he's good to go, he's now in the mix. The kid went 7 for 48 yards and a touchdown last week against Clemson. So, I have some interest in that guy. 4,700. If he's a true freshman and Stanford's like, dude, no, he's finally healthy, we just got to get this kid involved. Sign me up for sure. So I think Mosley's probably the one I have the most interest in, and Ayo Manor at 6,400 is probably who I would bring it back with as well. Iowa, Ohio State. I don't know. So I'm not going to play a whole lot of Iowa here just because they're going to give the ball to Caleb Johnson every play and hope that something happens. Same thing with Ohio State. I'm kind of off of this one. I just don't think, Iowa's defense never really gets rolled. Like they'll lose probably, but they're not going to get steamrolled. Like Iowa is a very good team, very good defense. They're going to try to control this game and control this clock. Limited opportunities for Ohio State. Iowa will not back down from Ohio State. I don't know, man. I think this 20 points is a little bit crazy, to be honest, in my opinion. I know that sounds nuts because Iowa can't score, but like if Ohio State can't score, then what are we talking about? It's like every other Iowa game. So I kind of think Iowa keeps this thing close, and I think Ohio State struggles a little bit in their first real kind of punch in the mouth. We'll see how they react. So I'm not really on Ohio State. They're too expensive for me in a tough matchup. If you guys want to play it, you're going to get them at lower ownership. Be my guest. Possibly most talented team in the country. But we're playing DFS here, not real life football, because the next game is the one that I think everyone's going to kind of flock to, and rightfully so. You got West Virginia going to Oklahoma State. Pokes are 3.5 point home favorite. You've got both teams in the 30s as far as an expected team total. Both teams pass at like a outrageous rate, even if you have Ollie Gordon. I have interest on pretty much all pieces in this one. Garrett Green, Alan Bowman, sign me up. I think Ollie Gordon's just still too expensive for his usage, which sounds wild, but it's true. I think you could take shots on CJ Donaldson and Jaheim White if you want. And then I think from the receiving game, you could take shots on Hudson Clement, Traylon Ray, Kobe Taylor. I think on Oklahoma State, it's very clear. It's more clear over there. Brennan Presley, Dejon Stribling, Rashad Owens. I think all pieces are live in this one, guys. I think this is the game that, expected is to shoot out. And I think we get it. So I'm going to be riding this chalk train probably and trying to get different with some of my other pieces to get to the top. So that's how I see it. Rutgers goes to Nebraska, where the Cornhuskers are a 7-point favorite. Kyle Monagai has just been absolutely dominant here. They're going to continue to ride him. We'll see what happens. That's if I'm going to play that game, which I'm probably not going to. At 8,100, he's just a tough, it's a tough button to click for me. And same with Nebraska. I think this one's just a knockout, drag out fight. I don't think it's high scoring. I think you could pick pieces off, but outside of Jamal Banks, there's nobody that's like value that I want to get a piece of. So if that makes sense, I like pieces from this game, but not at the price points that I see. Jamal Banks, however, is one. Vanderbilt hosts Alabama. Yes, Jalen Milroe at that price tag is still in play because he's in play every week. Justice Hayes, Jam Miller, I think you could go there, but they do split touches. Not really my cup of tea. I think if you're going to play Jalen Milroe, I think you just go for it and you just stack them up with Ryan Williams or Jeremy Bernard. Most likely Ryan Williams, and you pay the price, you move on, and you just hope that Alabama smokes these guys and it goes through Ryan Williams. So that's my opinion. I'm going to be taking some chances on it because there's a shot, and a very good shot, that happens. On the other side of the ball, Vanderbilt, kind of interesting here. So I know they've got a low team total. I know everyone's going to see what like Alabama did in that first half to Georgia, but Diego Pavia is like the menace to college football. This is the guy who, what was the team he took to the brink? We just talked about it earlier in the slate a few weeks ago. Who was it? Damn it. All right. I got to scroll back up. Sorry, guys. Missouri. Yeah, they almost took Missouri down. So Vanderbilt, I don't think they're going to beat Alabama, and I'm not saying it's even going to be close, but Pavia has like found ways in situations like this to make things a little bit crazy. And I'm not saying again that he's going to win this game, but like I could see in the second half him putting up a lot of numbers, and I think he could get crazy here and use his legs. And so Pavia is a little bit interesting to me at 6,800. I'll be honest. I'm not interested in the running game, but I think if you're going to do that, Eli Sowers, I think Junior Sherrill, and Quincy Skinner are the three main options here for the offense. The good news is they're really cheap. So if you want to take some shots or just play Pavia by himself, I think you could do it, honestly. And I think it's like just an interesting kind of not a backdoor cover, but like a backdoor DFS type situation here where you could see Pavia late. Make a charge in the second half when they're down even 20, 30 points and make some noise. Like it wouldn't shock me at all. That's just kind of what he does. So that's kind of my overall breakdown, guys. Hopefully that helps as far as just kind of figuring out where you want to go this Saturday and locking in on the players that you want. So good luck. Hopefully I see you at the top alongside me and on the leaderboards.